I always thought after 11 loyal years, my exit would involve a farewell speech, maybe even a modest office cake. Instead, I got Victor's fingers pointing toward the door and him barking, "Security, escort her out." The room spun. I felt my lungs tighten. Conversations froze, screens dimmed, chairs paused mid-swivel. It was like someone ripped the soundtrack from my life and left only silence. I had given this company my youth, my energy, my weekends, and this was how they repaid me? Two guards approached, Matteo and Rolf, both men I'd known for years. "Isolde," Matteo whispered, eyes soft, "we're so sorry. We know you don't deserve this." The humiliation stung worse than the shock, especially because Victor watched with a smug half-smile, his arms folded like he'd finally rid himself of a problem. But as I walked past my colleagues, their eyes full of disbelief, something inside me hardened. I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Victor Drager had always hated me. I never understood why. Maybe it was because people trusted me. Maybe because I solved problems he couldn't. Maybe because I refused to bend when he twisted numbers to make his middle management kingdom look stable. He needed someone to blame for the department's growing inefficiencies, problems he'd caused. And I, the senior analyst who'd kept the place afloat for years, became the perfect scapegoat. He fabricated performance issues, cherry-picked data, created a narrative that made him look like a hero for firing me. And I had walked right into his trap. But Victor forgot something. I don't crumble. I calculate. As I stepped into the cold air outside, I felt both numb and electrified. The humiliation played on repeat in my head. Escort her out. Every step away from that building felt like peeling off a layer of myself I'd outgrown. By the time I reached the street, my humiliation had crystallized into something sharper. Purpose. I whispered to myself, "This isn't the end." And I meant it. When you work somewhere for 11 years, you learn things. Who's honest? Who's dirty? Who's secretly hoping someone will expose the truth? I went home, opened my laptop, and dug through my personal backups, screenshots, timestamped documents, email threads I'd saved just in case. Victor had become reckless over the years. Careless. Paranoid. Arrogant. I had enough to raise eyebrows. But eyebrow-raising wasn't enough. I needed a clean kill. I remembered something. 3 months earlier, a private equity firm contacted me quietly. They were doing discreet due diligence on our company. I thought it was a routine check. Now I knew better. So I called the number. A calm voice answered. "This is Alistair Grant, a senior partner." "This is Isolde Markovich," I said. "I think I have information you'll want to see." The silence on the line told me everything. He already knew my name. He'd been waiting. We met at a small cafe, overlooking the river. Rain streaked across the windows as I slid him a secure drive. "These aren't accusations," I said. "They're facts." He scrolled. His eyebrows lifted. "This changes things," he murmured. I leaned back. "If your firm acquires the company, you'll need someone who understands its internal systems." He looked up slowly. "And someone who knows where the rot is," I added. A long silence hung between us. Then he said, "We'll be in touch, Ms. Markovich." For weeks passed. For silent, agonizing weeks. But I didn't sit still. I gathered more evidence. Falsified reports. Manipulated performance indicators. Recordings of Victor berating staff. Proof of harassment complaints lost in the system. Financial forecasts he altered to mislead stakeholders. Every night, I sharpened the sword. And every night, I imagined the moment I would swing it. My former colleagues started messaging me discreetly. "He's losing it since you left. He can't explain numbers you used to fix. He's blaming everyone. 2 people quit last week." It was chaos without me, and Victor knew it. His kingdom was crumbling. And I hadn't even begun my real move yet. Everything was falling into place perfectly. I wasn't the one who leaked the recording. A junior analyst sent it anonymously to a journalist. Victor mocking employees with accents. Victor bragging about firing dead weight. Victor admitting he never read half the reports. The clip went viral on local business news. Suddenly, my firing wasn't performance-related. It looked personal, vindictive,
discriminatory. Perfect.
One morning, my phone vibrated. A message from Alistair. We move forward. Acquisition approved. We need you in the transition team. High leadership role. Confidential for now. I stared at the screen. My heart beat slow and heavy. I wasn't just coming back. I was returning with authority. The acquisition would finalize in 12 weeks. That timing mattered. It made my return realistic. Not rushed. Not cartoonish. And perfectly aligned with the corporate world's pace. For weeks after that, the restructuring announcement would be made. Leadership changes. Operational integrity reviews. All of it real. All of it involving me. Victor had no idea a storm was coming. The day before the announcement, the transition team visited the office. I wore a black blazer, hair sleek, nerve steady. When I walked through the door, Matteo and Rolf, the security guards who escorted me out, froze. Then they stood, straightened, and saluted. A slow, deliberate salute. My throat tightened. I nodded back. Victor wasn't in yet.
But soon he would see.
I walked through the building with Alistair and 2 other executives.
People recognized me.
Whispers followed us down every hallway. Is that Isolde? What's she doing here? She looks different. I did feel different. Stronger. Focused. Ready. Victor arrived late, as usual. He walked into the lobby, scrolling on his phone, annoyed. He looked up.
Saw me. Stopped.
His face drained of color. Isolde? What are you? He didn't even finish. Alistair stepped beside me. Victor, meet our new director of operational integrity. She'll be conducting an internal audit. Victor's lips trembled. People stared. Whispers hissed through the lobby. And for the first time, Victor looked small. I began the internal review. Not with vengeance. With precision. Every file. Every falsified number. Every manipulated report. Every complaint he buried. I followed the paper trail he thought he had erased. He didn't understand yet. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability. His own team turned on him, with relief. I've been waiting years for this, one whispered. He ruined people, another said. I didn't ask leading questions. I didn't coerce. I simply listened. And documented. By day 5, the dossier on Victor was thicker than my arm. When I presented the findings to the transition board, they were silent. Then one executive leaned forward. How did he survive this long? I answered simply. Because I was covering the gaps. When he removed me, the truth spilled out. They nodded. The decision was made. The entire company filed into the auditorium. The air was electric. Anticipation, fear, whispers. Victor sat in the front row, sweating. He kept glancing back at me. I sat calm, legs crossed, expression neutral. For once, he was the powerless one. Alistair stepped on stage. As of today, we are restructuring leadership. Our audit revealed several compliance violations and ethical breaches. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Victor slowly shook his head, panic rising. Alistair continued, led by former department head, Victor Drager. Gasps filled the room. Victor stood up. That's a lie. That woman set me up. Alistair didn't even look at him. Our new director of operational integrity will address the details.
And he gestured to me.
Every eye followed me. My heels clicked. My heartbeat didn't waver. Not once. I stood at the podium. 11 years I served this company, I said. And for much of that time, one man's misconduct was hidden behind the work of others. Screens lit up behind me. Documents, timestamps, recordings. Victor's face twisted with disbelief. This is fabricated, he screamed. But no one believed him. Not anymore. The evidence was too clear. Too damning. Too consistent. Every claim backed by proof. Security walked toward him. Not slowly. Not politely. Decisively. Just as they had approached me 11 weeks earlier. He backed away, tripping over a chair, scrambling like a trapped animal. People filmed. People whispered. A lifetime of arrogance collapsing in real time. Matteo spoke firmly. Victor Drager, please come with us. It echoed. It was cinematic. It was poetic. He snapped. You're choosing her over me? She's nothing. Rolf replied, voice cool and devastating. She's the reason this place ever functioned. The room erupted in murmurs. Victor was dragged out, not escorted, not guided, dragged. His suit disheveled. His hair wild. His dignity shredded. People watched the way people watch a villain meet their end in a film. And I did nothing. Justice was acting on its own. Employees approached me one by one. Thank you. You saved us. We can breathe again. Some cried. Some hugged me. Some just looked relieved. I realized then that my fight hadn't been about revenge. It was about liberation. For all of us. They moved me into Victor's old office. I stood inside, closing the door behind me.
His view.
His leather chair. His empty desk. I placed my palm on the window and exhaled. I had reclaimed not just my career, but my dignity. Corporate legal called later. Your audit will be the primary evidence in the upcoming legal proceedings, they said. I nodded. Good, I replied. It should be. Victor wasn't just fired. He was being held accountable. Truly and completely accountable for everything he'd done wrong. My first official day in my new position, I walked into the building with steady steps. Matteo and Rolf saw me. They exchanged a look, then stood, straightened, and saluted again, slow, proud, respectful. This time, everyone else joined in. A ripple of applause filled the lobby. And I, Isolde Markovich, once escorted out in shame, smiled deeply and said to myself, I told you this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Over the next weeks, I rebuilt the department, not in Victor's image, in a better one. I hired back people he'd forced out. I promoted staff he'd ignored. I created transparent systems so no one could hide corruption again. The culture shifted. People started smiling at work. They trusted leadership. They felt safe. It was everything the company should have been all along. One afternoon, a young analyst knocked on my door. Ms. Markovich, I just wanted to say thank you. Victor made my life miserable. I was going to quit. But now I actually love coming to work. I smiled. That's all I wanted. For people to feel valued. She left, and I sat back in my chair. This was the real victory. Not Victor's downfall, but the healing that came after it. The company thrived under new leadership. Our numbers improved. Client satisfaction soared. Employee retention hit record highs. The private equity firm was pleased. Alistair called me personally. You've exceeded every expectation, Isolde. The board wants to discuss expanding your role. I felt a surge of pride. Not arrogance. Just quiet satisfaction. I'd earned this. Every bit of it. Through hard work, integrity, and patience. Months passed. The company grew stronger. My team grew larger. My influence grew deeper. But I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot the humiliation of being escorted out. I never forgot the people who stood by me. And I never forgot the lesson Victor taught me, that ego without competence eventually collapses. One day, I received an email. It was from Victor. The subject line read, I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it without reading. But curiosity won. I opened it. The message was short. I was wrong. I let my insecurity destroy something good. You deserved better. I hope you can forgive me someday. I read it twice. Then closed it. I didn't respond. Some wounds don't need closure. They just need distance. I heard through industry contacts that Victor was struggling. No one would hire him after everything came out. His reputation was destroyed. His career was over. I felt no joy in his suffering, but I felt no guilt either. He'd made his choices. Now he lived with the consequences. Meanwhile, I kept building. New projects. New teams. New goals. The company became one of the top performers in our industry. Awards were won. Articles were written. My name was mentioned in business journals. Not as a victim, as a leader. That shift meant everything to me.
I was no longer defined by what Victor did to me.
I was defined by what I built after him. That was true victory. Creating something better from the ashes of betrayal. I started mentoring young professionals, especially women who felt overlooked or dismissed. Your value doesn't depend on someone else seeing it. I'd tell them. Build your skills. Document your work. And when the time comes, let the evidence speak for itself. Many of them reached out later to thank me, to tell me they'd stood up for themselves, that they'd gotten promotions, that they'd left toxic workplaces. Each message filled me with purpose. This was bigger than my story now. It was about changing workplace culture, about showing people they didn't have to accept mistreatment, about proving that integrity and competence eventually win. One woman told me, "You gave me the courage to fight back." I replied, "You always had the courage. I just showed you it was okay to use it." The company held its annual gala, a black tie event celebrating achievements. I was asked to give a speech. I stood on stage, looking out at hundreds of faces. Some I knew, some I didn't. 2 years ago, I was escorted out of this building in disgrace. Today, I stand before you as Director of Operational Integrity. The room was silent. I share this not to boast, but to remind you that setbacks don't define you. How you respond to them does.
I paused.
When someone tries to erase your contributions, document them. When someone tries to silence your voice, speak louder. When someone tries to destroy your career, build a better one. The applause was thunderous. People stood. Some were crying. I saw Matteo and Rolf in the back, smiling proudly. This moment was for all of us. After the gala, I reflected on my journey. The pain of being fired. The humiliation of being escorted out. The months of uncertainty. The careful planning. The eventual triumph. All of it had shaped me, made me stronger, wiser, more resilient. I wouldn't change any of it. Not even the painful parts, because those parts taught me who I really was. They revealed my strength when I thought I had none. They showed me I could rebuild from nothing. They proved that justice, though slow, eventually arrives. I thought about Victor sometimes. Not with anger. Not even with satisfaction. Just with understanding. He was a cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when insecurity drives decision-making. When ego replaces competence. When cruelty becomes strategy. His downfall was tragic. But it was also necessary. For the company. For the employees. For justice itself. I received an invitation to speak at a business conference. The topic, resilience in leadership. I almost declined. Public speaking still made me nervous. But then I thought about all the people who might benefit from hearing my story. So, I accepted. The auditorium was packed. Hundreds of professionals, all looking for inspiration, for guidance, for hope. I told them everything. The firing, the evidence gathering, the long wait, the return, the rebuilding. I didn't sugarcoat the pain. I didn't pretend it was easy. Some of you are facing your victor right now, I said. You're being underestimated, undervalued, pushed out. I paused. Document everything. Build your case. Trust the process. Justice may be slow, but it's coming. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, dozens of people approached me, sharing their stories, asking for advice, thanking me for speaking their truth. One person stood out. A young man, maybe 25. "My boss is doing exactly what Victor did to you," he said. "I don't know if I should fight or just leave." I looked at him carefully. "That depends on what you want. If you leave, you protect your peace immediately. If you stay and fight, you might change the system. Both are valid choices." He nodded slowly. "What would you do?" I smiled. "I document everything first, then decide." He laughed. "That's what I thought you'd say." I gave him my card. "If you need advice, reach out. No one should fight alone." He thanked me and walked away. I hoped he'd find his path. Whatever it was, I hoped he'd find justice. Or, at least peace. Both were worth fighting for. Back at the office, I continued building. The team was thriving. Projects were succeeding. The culture was healthy. But I knew my work wasn't done. There were still systems to improve, policies to change, people to mentor. I created a new program, anonymous reporting for workplace misconduct. Employees could submit concerns without fear of retaliation. Each report would be investigated thoroughly, fairly, transparently. The response was overwhelming. Within weeks, dozens of reports came in. Some were minor. Some were serious. All were handled with care. People started trusting leadership again. They believed their voices mattered, that their concerns would be heard. That's what good leadership looks like. Not power, not control, but service, protection, justice. I was proud of what we'd built, not just for myself, but for everyone who worked there. Years passed. I was promoted again, then again. Eventually, I became Chief Operating Officer, the second highest position in the company. I never forgot my roots, never forgot being escorted out, never forgot the security guards who saluted me. Every decision I made was filtered through that memory. Would this protect employees? Would this create justice? Would this build something lasting? If the answer was yes, I moved forward. If not, I reconsidered. My leadership style became known throughout the industry. Firm but fair. Strategic but compassionate. Results-driven but people-focused. Other companies tried to recruit me, offered bigger salaries, better titles. I turned them all down, because this wasn't just a job anymore. It was a mission.
To prove that good people can win.
That integrity matters. That justice, though slow, is worth waiting for. One morning, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it carefully. Dear Ms. Markovich, you don't know me, but you saved my career. I was being harassed by my supervisor. I documented everything, just like you advised in your conference speech. I submitted a report through the anonymous system my company created, inspired by yours. They investigated. He was fired. I was promoted. Thank you for showing me that fighting back is possible. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. This was why I kept going, why I kept speaking, why I kept building. Because my story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd ever been dismissed, underestimated, escorted out. We were all connected, all fighting the same fight. And together, we were winning. I stood at my office window, looking down at the street below. The same street I'd walked 11 years ago, humiliated and broken. The same street where I'd whispered, "This isn't the end." I smiled. Because I'd been right. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of justice, of redemption, of purpose. Victor tried to erase me. Instead, he freed me to become something better, something stronger, something that couldn't be erased. I thought about Matteo and Rolf, about their salutes, about what those salutes meant: respect, recognition, justice. That's all any of us really want. To be seen, to be valued, to be treated with dignity. I'd fought for that. And I'd won. Not just for myself, but for everyone who came after. And that victory would last forever.